Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I will be critiquing or giving my opinion on some of your work. Give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and let's get on to the video. So the first person that I'm giving my feedback on is Matt, because he always sends me his project, so thank you Matt, that's why you're number one. So this is the model for his render, and then afterwards the actual render. The composition, the color palette are really good. You can see the trees on the back. On the right, they're very light and cool, which is the way to go because the further something gets, the cooler and lighter it gets. But as you can see from the back to the left corner, it's a bit warm, and the little bush underneath that is the same saturation or the darkness of the ones up to the front. Also, I wish there was people in it or even a person camping instead of the chair. Although I really like the fire and the chair, I just think person would have been better. But overall, good image, well done. The second one is by Peter. I like your image as well. It's realistic and you can see there's a lot of detail and hard work on this render. One thing is, I think it's a little flat. You could have added a bit more shadow into certain places and made it pop a little bit more. And also the composition, because as a person that's never seen your project, I don't really know what are you trying to show. I feel like it's the building on the left because of its design, and also that the people are walking towards it or that there are people inside. It should have just been a focal point in your render. And also the balconies on the left, they kind of look out of proportion or perspective. And also the car, I just wish that there wasn't a car. Without the car, it gives the effect that I think that you're trying to show with this render. But overall, impressive. Your attention to detail, so the little fog and atmosphere is good, well done. So the next few images and sketches is by Josella, and these are nice. I think you did a good job since you've only started in March, so I think everybody should give you a big round of applause. First of all, I can promise you that your sketches are better than some of the people in my university. They are honestly that good. There's two things that I think you should maybe try. The first thing is you could look at videos on rendering trees, or maybe on Pinterest, because trees and grass, they give the biggest effect to your sketches. The next thing is your lines. So for example, I know that since you've started in March, you're probably not that confident to draw one straight line. So what I would suggest is that you actually use a ruler, because there's no shame in using rulers. I love using rulers and I always use them in my sketches. But to make it look like a sketch, you need to cross the edges and make them overlap a little bit. Don't take your time with the ruler, just be really quick. Draw out your lines, because it really makes your overall image much cleaner, nicer, and much more appealing to the eye. That's one thing. The second thing is, if you don't want to use a ruler, that's okay as well, but maybe don't try to make your lines straight. On purpose, make them a little bit more scribbly. It adds character. So either ruler or scribbly lines, or combine the both, which is what I do. But overall, really good sketches. Well done. The next few renders are by Ahmed, and he has the channel The Architectural Insider, so go on over there and check his channel and give him a subscribe button and tell him you came from me. Thank you. Okay, so for the critique. So this one, like the building and the project is nice, and I love the collage style to it. The one thing is, I think you didn't do the shadow from the tree properly because they're not really to perspective, and you didn't add shadows to people. It just makes everything a bit more realistic. And also some of the shadows, I wish they were a bit more darker, and because it would make everything pop a little bit, because the building on the back looks a little flat, and as you can see, some trees were added to the back layer, so you can see some of the lines that you did. But overall, really nice image. The second one, this one is actually my favorite. As you can see, the colors, the texture, the trees, the shadows are very well done, and you can immediately see the effect from this one to the other image. It just makes it a bit more impactful and it catches your eye. Is really my favorite. The last one is the site plan. One thing I would say is that I feel like zoomed out. I would love to see the trees bigger, the buildings bigger, so I can see all of the details that you've obviously put into your work. But I know that you have some buildings on the left, and I think maybe you had to include it in your project. Maybe they were a part of a renovation or something. So maybe what you could have done is you could have had that one smaller and then made a bigger one, focusing only on the right side, because I feel like that has a bit more detail and a lot more interest. But overall, really good. So the next render is by Greta, and she actually redone one of my renders, which I am so happy to see that someone has actually redone one of my renders. You are the first person, so thank you so much, Greta, from the bottom of my heart. I honestly like it. I think you've done it very well. What I like is that you didn't do exactly as I did. You took your own spin on it and you found your own images, so I think that's good. The only thing that I'd say is I wish the frames were a bit darker, because they're kind of invisible and they're a little too thin. And maybe the person, I feel like you've drawn it by hand or an illustrator or something, so I just feel if you had chosen a picture or an image of a person, it would make it a lot more better. But overall, good. So the next render I also like. I feel like it's a bit too dark and there's not really atmosphere to it or depth of field, and I wish if the the angle wasn't too low. And I feel like you've taken the render of a rendering program, which is good. There's nothing wrong with it. If you had taken it to Photoshop and you've added a bit more effects and just played around with the levels and stuff, I think you would have had a nice project, a nice render. And also the car, there's not really a lot of people, in fact there isn't any, and there's only a very big car, so maybe remove that car and add more people in it as well. Maybe add a bit more detail into the building. It looks a little flat and not really 3D, so maybe add a bit dimension into it. But overall, I really like the design, and blue is my favorite color, so you nailed it. You can see the sky, it's much better. There's a little light, a little bit of atmosphere, and I also like the building. There's a bit more dimension into it, but like I said, maybe spend a bit more time on the building itself as well and just add a bit more detail into it. But overall, well done. So I'm not gonna give any feedback into these sections. I love them, they're really fun to look at. And also these tiny little diagrams, one tiny thing is I find the text a little hard to read. Maybe make it bigger or make it bolder. Maybe you can add a texture of rocks or soil. So the last two images are site plan. Visually, I like this a lot. Honestly, I find it hard to read. I think you just misplaced or you didn't put the layers to where it's supposed to be. So for example, you can see that some of the trees are under the road, and the trees are supposed to be on the top layer and they should be the darkest. And you also have two kinds of contour lines, so maybe choose the ones that are faint and have those on the bottom. And also the people, they look a little faint. I just feel like you should have organized the layers better, but it's honestly just 1 or 2 tweaks and you're ready to go. This one, I wouldn't say that this is as artistic as the first one, but I do find it more readable than the other one, because I can understand that this is the road, the trees, and the pathways and the text. Although I do prefer the other one in its textures and trees. They were a bit more vibrant. This one feels a little bit muted. Overall, your whole images that you've sent me are really good, so give yourself a pat on the back. So the next one is by Orholla. I am so sorry if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly, which I think I am. Anyway, your renders are amazing. Honestly, they are so professional. The only thing that I would say is, I'm not gonna go into detail over all of them. I would only say that maybe if you had taken them also to Photoshop for just played around with the levels, saturation, added a few effects or depth of field, it honestly would have killed it. Maybe some light features as well. And there's also, in some images, some places were a bit too dark, the floor, so maybe make those a bit lighter, and then the shadows that are actually on the building, make them a bit more darker so that it stands out a bit more. To take them to a next level, maybe add some people into it to add some scale, and also maybe some light on the interior, like I said, light features. And if you had taken it to Photoshop, added some light effects and all that, and very well presented. One is a Sketchup model by Inzamam, I think. The same as the other project, there's a lot of work gone into this model. I can see that you spent a lot of time working on this project, so well done on that. The only few things that I'd say is maybe add some balconies, because I can see that you've created an urban space in the middle within all of the buildings. So maybe if you added some balconies to enjoy the view, I think that would have been very good. And I think your SketchUp model isn't finished because there isn't any materials or finishes on it, so I'm not gonna critique on that. Kind of awkward corner. I feel like you could have done this a bit better, because you can see there's 2 triangles forming, so maybe instead of forming those triangles, maybe just connect it into one straight line. That would have been easier. Stairs, I feel like if they were glass, it would just make it visually interesting for the people from the inside and also from the outside. And also maybe this urban space in the middle, you could have designed it a bit better, because it's in the form of a triangle, so it gives off so many great ideas, inspirations, and creative ideas in my head of how the space could look like. So you could work on that space a little bit better, because I feel like that could truly be the essence or something really nice in your project. So this one is very nice and professional. I just think it needs a bit of refinement in the design. So for example, I think you could have used the spaces more efficiently. So for example, there's a lot of empty spaces and empty walls. Instead of having a big picture frame or a mirror or that frame around the TV, either make the TV bigger or use that wall. So add more furniture, or even that black wall could have been a very big bookshelves, and it could have been the centerpiece or a very important element in the design, been better. Even for example, a central sofa, you could have had it a corner sofa so you can see the space a bit better. You can add more people and see how they're circulating. Central sofa, I just feel it makes the space empty, and I just think that it's a lot of lights for this small scale room. If this render is the scale and proportion, I just think that it's a low ceiling as well. But anyway, in regards to the render, I think it's very professional, and you've got the render very realistic, so that's very good. Well done. That's all of the projects that I have for today. Thank you so much for everyone that sent me their projects. I hope you guys don't think I was being rude or disrespectful to any of you guys. I'm trying to be harsh, but only because I care about you guys and I wish that you get the best grades, and that's why you're sending me your project, so I can give you my advice. So please do keep sending me. And if I do find that these videos are very likable by you guys and you keep sending me your projects, I can do this monthly. You can send them over to survivingstudio@gmail.com, and if you can have it in the subject that it's for the critique video or something like that, so I can add you. I hope you guys had a wonderful weekend. I'm Rasha Shururu, and I'll see you next time.